Our guest tonight is Jed Schlackman, and I just want to let everybody know how we met. We met Jed on our tour, our consciousness tour that we were doing in 2009, 2010, and we were down in Florida, and we were staying at a friend's house, and she had us introduce us to Jed, and we understood that he was a healer, and so we went into one of his free healing sessions at her center. And it was just a beautiful evening. We have footage of it. He explained a lot about the field of infinite possibilities and how you can literally, manipulate matter through the mind. Also in a spiritual viewpoint. So Jed is a very special friend of ours. I follow him on Facebook. I love the stuff he puts up. Puts up a lot of stuff on healing, awareness. And Jed Schlackman provides a variety of individual, family, and group counseling and healing services. Spiritually based guidance and powerful-minded body and energetic healing methods can foster deep healing and rapid transformation, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. So yes, Jed was one of the miracles that we ran across in Florida during 2010. And I'm going to open up the line here to Jed, and let's see if we can connect. Hi, Jed. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good enough. All right, Jed, this is great. Thanks for being here tonight. I want to give you, as a member of the human race, I want to thank you for the work that you're doing here currently with the people around you in your area, and also the people that you meet across on this World Wide Web, as we used to call it.
Right.
So can you tell us a little about your? I must say, can you tell us about a little bit about your approach to your healing modality between psychology and spirituality?
Certainly. I come from a background studying the conventional psychological theories and psychotherapy, and then in my own life path I went into exploring spirituality in a lot of depth and looking at different spiritual traditions and principles and applications of that. And the way I look at things, there isn't really a separation. So we're here on Earth as human beings interacting with each other and with the world around us, which brings up the psychological patterns and issues that are present. But we're actually spiritual beings who have put ourselves into this level of reality, we could say, to have these types of experiences. So in order to address challenges that we're dealing with on a psychological level, I find it very important and empowering to be able to look at things from a more spiritual or from a transpersonal perspective. So to see ourselves as these souls or spiritual beings that are here for a reason, to learn, to grow, to evolve, and to really master different challenges that come up in this dualistic reality.
Well,
in order to assist people, I was about to say, in order to assist people, I work on the psychological level in terms of counseling them, helping them see their own thought processes, their own beliefs, how they came to develop those thoughts or beliefs. And I also work on a directly energetic level using modalities like Reiki, where I'm just channeling through a higher frequency of energy to help the more dense or distorted patterns start to unravel and release so that people can tap into more of their spirituality.
Oh, that's wonderful. It's quite amazing work that you do. It's deep, and it's also it's pretty simple at the same time. I was meaning to ask you, Jed, when you see the people heal, and you experience them healing too, and the reality, this new reality that it's brought forth within their healing between the both of you. Can you tell us some of the experiences or differences that maybe you have witnessed between someone who has initially come to for healing, and what would happen after, according to their will in their own healing?
Right. One of the interesting and common patterns that comes up is people come for what they think is to heal a particular issue. It could be something physical, it might be some psychological pattern in their life. But then when they're exposed to these different spiritual ideas and spiritual energies, they start to have a shift in their life, and they end up in some way doing spiritual work, whether they become a counselor or a yoga practitioner or a Reiki master, or whatever it might be. It kind of opens up this new chapter in their life that they may or may not have even considered before. And in a way, that is part of what happened in my own life, because when I started to look into spirituality and got interested in Reiki and things like that, I had no idea where it was going to lead me. So it was initially just my own exploration, my own curiosity, wanting to understand things and experience things. And at that time, I didn't know it was going to be a journey where I would be sharing it with so many other people.
Yeah, that's beautiful, and we can contest that. When we see people heal, and when we heal also ourselves simultaneously, we step into a new reality with the other individual, and it's much lighter. It's much more, I would say, more truthful.
Mhm. Right. It's about letting go of who we've been up until now, which includes whatever emotional baggage we might have or whatever limiting beliefs we've been carrying around. And as that stuff starts to be released or let go, we start to see our lives in a different way. We start to see other people in a different way, generally in a more compassionate and more open way, where we're not there to judge and condemn people, but we're there to understand them and assist them in whatever way we might be able to as we cross paths. So that's been a big lesson and transformation for me, to kind of step out of my ego reality and access the more spiritual or more soul-guided reality. And it's something that is an ongoing process. We're all wherever we're at on our journey, and there's always more stuff to let go of and more stuff to learn. No one's, quote, there. It's kind of an eternal process of our soul's evolution. But as we start to be more conscious about it, we really make great leaps and strides in opening up and seeing things differently.
Absolutely, absolutely. Can you tell us a little bit about, I remember you talking about a field of infinite potentiality regarding healing, regarding the way the mind can manipulate matter. I also want to add to the notion you were talking earlier about understanding each other. I think that's also, there's a lot of little viewpoint, a lot of hints that we're given. As one of them is understanding each other would be a hint of this oneness that you were telling us earlier, that we can all agree to, that there is no separation. And I think understanding in duality, in the reality where it is split into two, one person, one individual understanding the other individual is unification, is almost an experience of oneness in itself. But I wanted to ask you, yes, I wanted to ask you earlier about. I remember when we were filming you and you were explaining, this this field of infinite potentiality. Can you expand a little bit on that?
Right. Well, we have that idea that there's a source. We could call it the source field, the source intelligence, the source awareness, that is inclusive and encompassing of everything, including every one of us, every potential reality that could exist. So I try to use the analogy of having this computer program. It's like a game where you can play different characters within the game and go on a whole bunch of different adventures with those characters. And each time you play it, your character can experience things slightly differently depending on the different choices and actions that that character is taking. But those different realities all are like encoded into the game. So it's already there. It's part of this matrix in the program, but you're inserting yourself into that character and making different choices to open up different paths, different potential experiences. So if we were to step outside of our mind and step into that larger picture, that source awareness, we could conceivably observe that all those different realities exist. But that little character that we're imagining ourselves to be is kind of at this single point there along a continuum of experience, choosing which of those realities are going to be activated. But they really are just potentials. And that's an idea that's been brought up a lot in quantum physics, where you have a potential reality, and depending on whether you're observing it or whether your consciousness is interacting with it, it will either be experienced or not experienced. It's a little bit of a hard thing for our minds to wrap around because we experience this kind of linear reality where it seems like we're going through this linear experience of our past, our present, and our future. But really, those are just small samples of an unlimited potential.
Yeah, that's quite a view, and it's so easy to understand it because there's truth to that, and I know that we are all, it's all available to us, and we're all naturally capable of having this experience. I was also meaning to ask you, can you tell us a little bit about the psychology, in your view, the psychology of well, I was thinking earlier that from the last time we met in 2010 till now, present date, 2014, close to the end of 2014 here. I can also testify, in my own experiences that there is an awakening happening on the planet. There's certainly a conscious awakening happening regarding the economics systems and the political systems of the planet, and people are coming into their own here. Can you testify to that on your end? Down in Florida, and your experiences, where is there a difference in numbers of people being aware as to how many there were in 2010 when we first met?
I've observed really over the past decade, or maybe even a little longer, this kind of steady awakening process where more and more people are starting to look into alternate ways of perceiving the world around them. For some people, it's the spiritual aspect, so breaking out of, let's say, their old religious beliefs, exploring different spiritual practices, things like Reiki and yoga and shamanism, all those more alternative spirituality approaches. And also in terms of the economic and political stuff. I think the internet has been a big part of it, where people are connecting through the web and social media and those electronic communication resources, and information is spreading a lot more rapidly, a lot widely, so that people are really being made aware of things that 10 or 15 years ago would not have crossed their radar, and they're starting to think about it and question things and looking at things in the media and wondering, is what they're showing us really the true story, or the images that were shown, or the storylines or narratives about our reality, the true reality, or is there something else behind that we haven't been shown? And in terms of numbers, it's hard to really...
The whole media thing, with images and, the stimulation of the eyes and the ears, all that, it becomes quite psychological as well,
Mm-hmm.
Obviously.
Right. When we see something, we're processing that through our senses, and then our mind and our brain are interpreting that. And if we're not mindful, in a sense, we can easily be influenced and led to think or believe something that's really just an illusion. So coming back to the idea of the numbers, I can't really calculate how many people are having some type of awakening, but if I look on the internet and see how so many people are liking these certain Facebook pages or certain blogs and websites, and even seeing how the numbers of viewers for conventional media like CNN or the New York Times and things like that are declining, that means people are looking into other venues to get information and get ideas about the world around them.
Absolutely. I think, I also agree to what you're saying. I've been noticing this awakening happening on a lot of different levels, even in common talk between people, without the electronic devices, everyday people. So it's quite amazing to observe that. I want to switch it up here a little bit. We know you do Reiki. When we first met, it was one of your Reiki nights, and I just want to let our viewers know that it was quite a profound and beautiful evening that night. There was a lot of people, and what Jed did was he introduced what Reiki was thoroughly in a way where it was explained. Quite in simple terms and understood very easily. And what happened was he brought in other Reiki practitioners who willingly came, and everybody started healing everybody. And we have this on footage too, and it's out there on the web. And it was quite beautiful to see that. Now, coming back to that, you do Reiki. Can you give us a view as to what happens energetically during the Reiki process, and what is Reiki for those who don't really understand what it is?
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Reiki is a Japanese word, and it refers to a healing tradition or healing practice that was started in Japan in the 1920s. A man named Mikao Usui is the founder of the Reiki tradition. And it refers to working with spiritual life force energy. So it's a divine energy. It comes from what we could call the Creator or God. And we're a channel or conduit for that energy. We actually are channeling that energy through us all the time. We're all spiritual beings here, bringing that spiritual energy into the physical plane. So a Reiki practitioner is someone who's just become more conscious of that, and by focusing their intention, going into kind of a meditative state, they're able to enhance the flow of that energy through themselves and relay it or transmit it to another person or another living being. When that's happening, there's kind of this resonance occurring. So our energy field is making a connection in some way with the energy field of that other person. So they're able to receive that energy and use that energy in whatever way they're ready to let it enhance their own energy in some manner. So it can help release blocks or tension in the energy flow. So a lot of us have a lot of stress or distortion in our energy field due to everyday stress or traumas that have happened, things that have in some way constricted us in our life. And bringing through this higher intensity or higher frequency spiritual energy, it helps those patterns start to release and start to clear. So when I provide Reiki treatments, I find that's often what's happening. People carry a lot of tension or density in their energy, and it starts to open up and release. It could be physically, where their body is actually moving and twitching in some way as the release is happening. Other times it's more emotional, so a person might start to cry or laugh or have visions or memories come to them. So it can really be profound for some people. And really it's an interaction or a combined effort in a sense where the quote healer, the practitioner, is interacting with the recipient of the energy to facilitate this shift, and both of them have to in some way be open to that process. So you can't force someone to change or shift themselves if they're not ready or open in some way. That being said, even people that are somewhat kind of skeptical or don't have a belief in spiritual energy or spiritual healing can have major changes or shifts as a result of a Reiki treatment. So it doesn't require someone to believe in it. It just requires on some level that they allow themselves to open up to it.
Absolutely. That's we've met a lot of Reiki healers, and I'm glad to see that it's such a common theme, and there's a lot of them out there right now doing this practice. Meanwhile, while we were in Florida in 2010, by the way, Jed, we ran across a friend of ours. I think she was in Boca Raton, and she works with children who do Reiki, and they work with crystals as well. And they had a video. We caught a video of me being healed by these children doing Reiki. And one thing that I noticed right away is that the energy was very so it was giggly. I mean, they started giggling, laughing, placing crystals all over my body, placing their hands, a few, inches away from parts of, my shoulders, my feet. But the energy that was happening there was, they started giggling with each other, and it was really, really light and I would say for myself in an experience probably the most profound Reiki experience I had, and it was simply because they were laughing. The energy was very, very high in that moment. So I just want to add also that there's children out there doing this as well, and of course they access this a lot easier.
Right. Yeah. Children are typically very open, so they don't have the programming and beliefs that adults have often built up or carried along the way that are blocking things. So for them, they just kind of take it as something natural that, yes, we have this energy, we can place our hands here and we can heal people. They don't question it.
Right.
And for them, it's also, like you said, something kind of more at ease, more playful. They're not taking things as seriously as some older people might. So it's really fun and inspiring to see them when they're practicing Reiki.
Yeah, one thing I really noticed. They got into the healing right away. There was no preparation where the healer didn't have to take the breaths and become all still, and they just got into it right away. And it was quite amazing.
Mhm.
Okay, Jed, if
the
you
children, a lot of them are really coming into our civilization now to teach us, I think. There's talk about the indigo kids and the crystal kids. A lot of them are here bringing in these natural talents as examples for those of us who weren't raised with that.
Yes, they're also getting older now, because I remember speaking, hearing of the indigo children in the early '90s. The dialogue was also apparent then, and they're getting older now too. I think there's probably a second generation indigo coming through there, and I've met a few of them online on Facebook too, and they have incredible gifts and awareness, and their dialogue is so truthful and unifying.
Right. I've also noticed that a lot of the people that are leaders of this spiritual awakening, especially bringing things forward online and on Facebook and blogs and things like that, are younger people. So they're really tuned in to be able to connect people and bring these ideas out there on a large scale.
Absolutely. Even the level of creativity. I'm very visual. I'm a visual artist in my different ways, and just the concepts and the visual concepts they have, along with their messages, it's really inspiring. To see that in the younger generations.
Mhm.
And Jed, would you share with us your website, and can you just expand? Just share with us a little bit of your services and how people can contact you.
Yes, my website is www.phinsights.com. That's PHINSIGHTS. I offer different services in the psychological and spiritual modalities. That includes energy healing. I work with Reiki. I also teach Reiki classes. I provide hypnosis sessions, and I work a lot with past life regression work, or you could say it's spiritual regression work, because the past, the present, and the future really all coexist. So we just refer to it as past from our human perspective, but it's really just working on a spiritual level to access those memories and those forms of insights that our soul carries for us. I do kind of a psycho-spiritual form of psychotherapy, so I'm guiding people from that way of looking at things, where it's not the regular talk therapy where you're only focusing on your thoughts and your behaviors and things like that, but I bring in spiritual principles and ideas about our purpose in life and where we are in our journey, and how we can look at the world around us as a mirror, that it's there to show us things about ourselves to help us find more balance, more harmony within ourselves. And I also like to work a lot with sound. So I use crystal bowls and Tibetan bowls and tuning forks and some other sound healing tools, using that both for working with energy, so clearing and balancing energy, and also just for helping people go into meditative states, so leading people in different guided meditations. So that's kind of a wrap-up of the types of therapies that I use most of the time.
Yeah, that's it's quite a beautiful thing that you do, and how you give yourself with this gift that you have discovered or remembered in this present life of yours. We're open to callers, by the way, people who are listening. You can call in at 267-521-0151. That's 267-521-0151. And I get off topic when I look at numbers. I wanted to also talk about what kind of state do you psychologically in a more of a common collective psychological state of the world right now? Can you tell us a little bit about what your opinion is?
That's an interesting question, because when you say the state of the world, that reflects this composite of so many different realities. So some people are very conscious and very active in building their spiritual awareness and finding ways to live in greater harmony with their community and with the natural environment. So in one sense, I see a lot of people that are on that path of living more consciously, more mindfully, attempting to do something in their life that's more meaningful. So a lot of people are looking for careers that are more satisfying, things where they feel they're making a positive contribution. At the same time, we have the other polarity, or the other end of the spectrum, where you have people that are in fear, that are facing traumas. You have obviously lots of conflicts going on in the world, and people in those situations are going to be dealing with stress and the repercussions of whatever's happening in their environment. So you have sort of that PTSD, post-traumatic stress scenario, that's happening in a lot of places. You have in America a lot of soldiers who have been in military service who come back and are dealing with the aftermath of that, whether it's the physical injuries or the emotional traumas. You have people that are in institutions or positions of power that it appears to me are kind of desperate to hold on to that power or expand that power in some manner according to whatever agendas or beliefs they have that are operating with them. So you kind of have these power blocks and factions on the global stage that are struggling with each other, and a lot of it's going on behind the scenes. But at the same time, it is affecting the mass consciousness, since they put out these different, I call them fear campaigns. So people are shown things on the news to make them anxious or afraid, whether it's something about a disease like the Ebola scare now, or terrorism. You have the Islamic State meme that's out there. And then with elections, of course, all that stuff kind of gets heightened because you have the candidates doing a lot of negative campaigning and trying to make it look like the other candidate is somehow horrible and destroying the country, and it goes back and forth, and it's really kind of bringing people into this. Go ahead.
And I was just going to say we go back to seeing how the media is can be such a psychological tool.
Mm-hmm. And it's always been that way. I think we just are actually becoming more conscious of it now. So because we have means of communication and the internet, where there's a lot more choices and options for what media we can look at, we start to see more different viewpoints, more different opinions or ways of perceiving reality. So we're not confined to as narrow a stream of information or input. And looking historically, I think that's been a key in the evolution of civilization. One of the biggest shifts in history in, let's say, the last 1,000 years was the development of the printing press. So until that time, people weren't reading, right? They were just passing along information by verbal methods and passing it from parent to child or from priest to disciple and so on. And then when the printing press came out, information got spread a lot more widely. You had a challenge to the church authority because people could start to actually read the biblical writings and form their own opinions about it rather than just listening to their priest. So that created this schism in a sense where some people would want to hold on to the old reality, follow whatever programming had been passed on throughout the centuries before that. Other people were starting to awaken to some other ideas to look for something new. Well, now we have a much larger global civilization, more people, more information out there. So it's happening now just on a much larger and much faster scale.
Absolutely. It's the internet is quite a platform, for people who want to research and find out answers to, even, the questions that are affecting their lives. And I think the more they listen to their intuitive self as they do their research, the more they connect the dots in the way that's appropriate for themselves to find the truth,
Right, it needs to be combined with their own intuition and their own experience. So it's not all the technology, it's also complementing that with their own development, with their own desire to grow, to learn, to become a more whole and balanced person.
Absolutely. Now I want to talk about, I heard, it's interesting that you do past life regression. Have you ever done any work, anything to do with any type of near-death experiences or life between lives or anything like that?
The life between lives, since you bring that up, is a type of regression therapy where people are guided first through the past life and then through the death experience to where their spirit goes up into the between lives realm. And in that realm, people are often given a lot more information or shown a lot more to help them understand things and see what they were learning or gaining from that lifetime, and also how it connects to their path toward the present. So kind of seeing the soul's plan and how everything fits together and how one lifetime relates to another lifetime, looking at different issues or archetypal patterns that soul is seeking to understand or explore. So for some people I work with, they do go into that between lives realm, and those tend to be the more profound kinds of sessions where they're not just reviewing something in the past life and only getting the input from that memory, but also connecting to their spiritual guides or their soul family, those beings on the other side who are helping assist and guide them along the way. So that's a really inspiring process, and it gives us some more understanding of who we are as souls and what our purpose here on Earth is. I think that's one of the big questions a lot of people have. Who am I? Why am I here? And being able to tap into that realm when you're in that deep altered state can give you some important input and information helping you understand things.
Can you share, Jed? Can you share with us any common theme that occurs in those sessions where they are expressing the life between lives? Is there a common theme with different individuals? Can you share with us?
Sure. One common theme is that certain souls are kind of companions, not necessarily that they're always a husband-wife type companion, but they're traveling through multiple lifetimes, playing different roles with each other. So it's like we as our soul or higher self have friends up there, and we kind of team up to come into this level of experience to work together to play out different scenarios and different issues. So
this
we
is common.
tend to
This
travel
is
in these
something
soul
common that
families.
you find?
Repeat that again?
I'm sorry, this is something common that you find with the individuals that you've helped?
Right. There's a pretty good number of people that I've worked with who are shown that there's a certain person in their life whose soul has also been with them with different roles perhaps, like they could be father, son, husband, wife, boss, employee, like playing out different scenarios, but it's the same souls traveling together through multiple lifetimes. So that comes up pretty often. I also find that people often intentionally, from the perspective of the other side, choose challenging lifetimes in order to develop themselves. So if we just came into lifetimes that were always simple and easy and didn't have any stresses or traumas or anything difficult to deal with, we actually wouldn't evolve or progress as much as a soul. So intentionally going into difficult situations, it could be going into a family where there's a lot of conflict or trauma, or being born with some type of disability or handicap. Sometimes those things are intentionally chosen to help the soul develop certain skills or qualities that it might not otherwise be developing.
Absolutely. Can you hear me, Jed?
Yes.
Okay, because I thought we got offline here. I heard the static disappear because there's generally a static happening. Okay, what a great conversation we're having. What a great conversation we're having this evening. That's so interesting, the work you do with the past life regressions, and it starts getting into the life between lives. One last question regarding that topic that we're talking about is what can you tell us about how, like, are they aware of, do they have a body, or what kind of state are they in while they're experiencing this life between lives?
Well, in the afterlife realm, it's kind of like you project whatever reality you create with your mind or that you're envisioning or imagining. So you could picture yourself with the body that you had on Earth if you wanted to, but you're really just this pure energy. So you can kind of carry on aspects of that identity when you're there, but you don't have to. So you can kind of picture yourself how you want to, since you are really just pure energy being guided by consciousness.
Well, this happens also in our current 3D reality to a certain extent, where quantum physics that you mentioned a lot earlier in the program this evening. Quantum physics is getting into the notion where mind can manipulate matter. Is that it's kind of like like a parallel in a sense?
It's really the same thing. The only difference being that on that level, because the frequencies are not as dense, it's happening kind of immediately. So as soon as you think something, it's there. It's like you're creating your reality instantly. In the physical plane, because things are slowed down and the vibration is slower or denser, it doesn't necessarily manifest right away. But it's really the same fundamental metaphysical principle that we're dealing with. We're just seeing it playing out on a different plane. So here things appear to be solid and physical, but that in itself is an illusion. Everything is energy vibrating. It's just because our senses are tuned to perceive things as this kind of snapshot of reality, as if it's frozen. That's how it appears. It's looking solid to us. But if we were on the other levels on a higher plane and looking down at it, we might just see different densities of light. It might not appear solid from that perspective.
Right. It's quite an amazing thing once we enter our conscious journey, our spiritual conscious journeys, and we get this type of information through experiences, and also through just analytical information, and it really enriches our life. It really enriches our lives to know these things, even on a scientific level, and how science is kind of like matching and being equal to spirituality, and they're kind of like merging together. There's a fusion happening, and I think that's probably the next level between the spiritual communities and the scientific communities. Hold on, I think. Okay, I have a question, Jed. Do you want to take a question from someone in the chat room?
That's fine. Sure.
We have a friend here named Peteski. Does Jed do distant work?
Yes. Yes, I do. Usually it's the energy healing work that I do by distance, but I can also do other forms of therapy, whether it's counseling or hypnosis, working with someone remotely. I would typically use Skype if they are on Skype. That's a convenient way to connect.
Okay, so for those who are listening right now, Jed does do distant healing, and he does it in different modalities. All right. He said thank you. Very good. Okay, coming back to what we were talking about.
The combining of the scientific and spiritual.
Yes, I think that's probably that's probably one of the biggest experiences we'll probably have collectively on the planet is this truthful merging between science and spirituality.
From my point of view, really science in its true sense and spirituality in its true sense have the same goal, which is to really understand existence, so to seek greater truth.
Absolutely. It's quite marvelous too how every one of us is receiving the truth we're asking for in our own appropriate way and in the perfect language that is suitable for us, and then we go on and share it with others in our unique way. And I think that's something that's happening a lot more often on the planet.
The process of sharing is really a process of expanding the energy of whatever it is you're sharing. So if we were to just study something and think of that and keep it to ourselves, we would actually be limiting its potential. But then as soon as we start to share it, whether it's talking about it, writing about it, blogging about it, we're putting that energy out there and kind of expanding the field that we're radiating, which allows more people, more other entities out there to start to connect and to access it. It's just like any signal with technology that's being broadcast. well, the stronger the signal, the more people can access it. So that's what's happening now with our consciousness. As we expand and share and communicate things more, we're able to communicate those ideas with a wider range or spectrum of people.
Yeah, I think it's pretty amazing as well. You know what you're saying, and the information we're sharing with each other. And sometimes you think, on your spiritual journey, you may perceive things as being on a plateau, and sometimes we have to step out of ourselves, and we can't we don't have to reinvent the wheel, where we don't have to figure out everything on our own, and we get these messages from other people, even via the internet. We get messages from other individuals, and that sharing aspect is on that level happening so often. I think is quite a positive thing.
I also feel that it's kind of like we're mirrors. So
yes.
When you're in a certain state of openness, or your consciousness is at a certain level, then you're starting to see a reality that matches that brings to you what you're ready for.
Hence
if we can open ourselves up more just by changing a belief, we're actually changing our reality. So we start to see different things coming into our experience just because we made that shift in our consciousness. It's all a synchronicity.
Absolutely. Hence what we were, just mentioning earlier regarding, in the afterlife, where things happen right away, and things can happen here also, but there's a time element, and it's exactly what you were just mentioning right now.
That time element here actually tests us more. it kind of makes us maintain our intentions and persist with them, even if what we desire maybe isn't appearing right away. It gives us that challenge to maintain the commitment, or to keep the faith, so to speak, that things will come in their divine time.
Yes, that's so true, because even people who struggle with this, being aware of this mechanism of creation, how we can create, we can testify by looking at our past experiences where we were focused on certain things, even the smallest things, and the outcome happened. So there's many testaments in our own individual lives where we focused on something and it happened. We can apply this wisdom to looking into the what we call the future also, and setting ourselves up with a reality that brings our joy and our creativity in full effect. So yeah,
right.
I was just when that discussion occurs, I always get to thinking that, oh, absolutely, because there's many experiences in our lives individually where we did focus on things and the outcome did happen, not exactly the same, and the journey was sometimes even better than we thought, and the outcome even better than we thought. But there is testimony in our own lives.
Indeed, and it helps to look back on it, so we can see things often more clearly in hindsight, because we're at that further point along in the journey, so we can see how it played out. And that gives us that affirmation about it, that reinforcement that, yes, this really is how it works. And we can see our own evolution. I've looked back on different aspects of my own life and see where I had ideas or intentions about things, and by taking a step in a particular direction, it really opened things up. I didn't know at the time where it was going to lead. I just kind of had this very basic idea of what direction I wanted to go in, but not a full picture, not a full plan or outline of where the end result would be. But just by having the faith to go in that direction, it started to open up the doors or open up the energy for things to materialize.
Absolutely. I think that's, especially when we recall and we can look in hindsight, that's putting our memory into good use. That's applying
Right.
wisdom. That's applying wisdom. There's an experience of wisdom when we remember in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I guess we have, we're going to wrap it up here, Jed, and I want to thank you so much for being our guest tonight. Our guest tonight is Jed Schlackman, and I just want to let everybody know how we met. We met Jed on our tour.